Pretty soon after starting your business, you start to think about your brand, your logo, your look, and this is going to ultimately lead you into deciding what are your brand colors. This is actually one of the hardest things to do, one of the hardest parts. It seems like it'd be easy because, hey, it's just colors, right? But is it? It's probably not just colors. It's what is going to attract your ideal clients to you. So you'll want to make sure that you have a set of colors that you go back to over and over and over again. It's really important to have this guide to go from when you're doing your social media, your website, all of the little things you need, your sales funnel, your lead magnet, all of those things. You'll want everything to flow together, be very consistent, but also it helps to show kind of your personality, showcase in a much faster way than you would through words. Colors actually elicit emotions. They allow people to feel and have almost a 3D view of who you are as a brand. And so this is, again, why it's so important to pick the right colors for your right people and for your right offer. I'm Kathy Olson from Funnel Gorgeous, and now that I've officially freaked you out from making such a big decision, no worries, I've got you. Let's dive in and talk about color. So the first step I suggest in trying to figure out what your brand colors are is actually doing a little bit of research and looking at what other companies have done and what you feel about other companies, like their colors. How do they make you feel? So look at, Target, Starbucks, start with the big guys, that's totally fine. Think about some of your favorite brands. Disney, obviously. Maybe it's a clothing brand, maybe it's an online brand, whatever it is. I want you to start auditing all the brands and writing down what colors they use, which ones you like, which ones you're drawn to, which brands you don't like, which colors you're not drawn to, and start to kind of categorize, okay, bright colors, neutral colors, primary colors, or is it pastels? Like, start to think about and pay attention to not only how companies use color, but which ones are actually resonating with you. And then if you want to even assign emotion to those colors, this website made me feel really comfortable, this website made me feel irritated. How did you feel? What was the emotions that you felt, and how did you connect with those colors? The next step is to research how brand voice is connected to color. So if you want to grab a free download, we have a total cheat sheet for you right down below in the comments. You can download this, actually connects words with colors. You can use our cheat sheet, or you can just make up your own, or you can start to search around the internet for it. So in this approach, you're actually going to go word first and then assigning color second. So I want you to think about how people describe your brand. Is it happy? Is it inviting? Is it friendly? Is it beautiful? Is it modern? Is it really simple? Is it really fancy? Like, what are the words people are using? Again, in that download, we have a list of adjectives that you can choose from, or again, you can write down your own, and then you want to connect which colors go for those words. And so this is not like the be all end all. This is obviously beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but this is just in general what people feel when they see certain colors. And then you're going to go ahead and match up the words that you chose to describe your business, and then you want to go over and look at the chart, look at the color chart, and see which colors correlate with those type of emotions. Okay, so now with step 1 and step 2, you can start to whittle down the colors that you are starting to be drawn to towards your company. And so the third step is going to be taking those brainstormed colors and starting to put them into groups. If you're totally not sure, you can have like 3 different groups or 3 different sets to choose from, and then you make your final decision. Or if you're pretty sure what you're liking and you've already kind of made up your mind on what you're going to choose, that's fine too. But for step 3, we're going to give assignments for all of the colors. And so what I want you to do is I want you to pick one dark color. Like, this would be the color that would be, your text would be in. Usually these are kind of neutral colors, black, dark gray, navy, something like that. But remember, you can't use both. You never want to use black and navy together because they're just too close to each other and they end up looking like a mistake. I see that people make this mistake all the time. So choose one. This is your dark color. This is going to be your text color, like your ink color, right? Black, dark gray, navy, maybe brown, but usually you stay in the black or gray kind of category for this to remain as neutral as possible. But I'm sure there are companies that can use the color brown. I don't know if I've ever used that color before. It's usually navy, charcoal, or black. Now I want you to choose your light color, and this is going to be basically your paper color. So if that was your ink color, this is going to be your paper color. And your paper color is basically white, or it's going to be like a beige or a tan color, or it could be a light gray. So basically the same kind of versions of those, but just your light color. Here's your light color. This is like the color of your page. This is the base color. And then your third color you're going to choose as your pop color. colors. So this color is going to be the one you use pretty sparingly. You're not going to use it like super all throughout, but it's like your pop of color. And so you're only going to choose one here. So this might be bright yellow, it might be, you know, like a light green, it might be pink, it might be like an electric blue or something like that. Some kind of pop, whatever your pop color is. So a way to kind of think through a pop color is if you had, like, imagine a room, like a very neutral living room, you know, with grays and beiges and whites and stuff everywhere, the couch and the curtains, and then you threw in this hot pink, you know, bright hot pink pillow. And those are just like the throw pillows. You have 2 of those, and those are just the one pop or 1 or 2 or 3 pops that you have in the room. So think about it in that way. What would that one color be in this kind of sea of neutral that would just like make it pop, that would stand out? Realistically, you're going to use this for the areas that you actually want to stand out. So like if you're doing a website or a sales page, this would be like your button color, something that like would really bring attention for people to take action on. Okay, so we've got your dark, we've got your light, and we got your pop color, and now you're going to choose one more color that is going to be your main color. It's going to be in between like your dark and your light. So something that's in between, almost like a neutral color. So this might be gray, it might be beigey color, like a darker. So like not white, not black, but gray, somewhere in the mid-tones area. It can be a muted version of your pop color if you're going to be doing like a, you know, very colorful brand, but this is really just going to be like your mid-tone area. And so you're going to have a light, you're gonna have a dark, you're gonna have a pop, and then a mid, basically. And so these are gonna be your 4 basic colors. Sometimes I usually actually throw in a 5th color, but usually it's kind of a subdued version of one of these colors. And so your main, let's say you have black, white, gray, like an electric blue, and then your 5th color is maybe like a lighter blue, or like maybe it's even like a tealy, it's like a little greener version of that or something like that. And if you want 2 pop colors, you can totally do that too. If you want 2 neutrals, you can do that too. If you want 2 darks or 2 lights, this is kind of the wild card color that you can throw in there. Again, this is just a formula that I've built kind of over the years and kind of what I use for my branding clients, and it seems to be pretty accurate with what most brands have. All right, and then step number 4 is going to be to share your colors. Share them out. This is actually a really fun content post. If you can say, hey, these are why I chose the colors. This is what the colors represent. Here's the words that go with the colors, and this is why it represents my brand. It's usually really, really fun to actually share out on social media. People love colors. People love being kind of involved in this branding process. It's super fun. And also remember to use your colors everywhere, like literally everywhere. My favorite thing to do is to decorate your office in your brand colors and really start to like envelop yourself in your brand. So of course you're gonna have it on your website, you're gonna have it on your social media platforms, maybe even if you have a Facebook group, using the colors there, but you can always take it a step further, do your office, and then you can actually start wearing clothes that are that color, which is actually the direction that I've gone in. I've even hired fashion stylists and I showed them my brand colors, and they created like a whole little capsule wardrobe for me in my brand colors. It was super fun, and I used to go to events in my colors as well as doing my office those colors. So whenever I did videos, it was just, everything was masterfully color coordinated, and it was amazing. So that's what I want from you guys. With so many fonts out there and new ones being added to the interwebs every single day, how on earth are you gonna choose your perfect font? Do you choose one font? Do you choose 5 fonts? Do you choose 2 fonts? And how do you know they go together? I am gonna show you right now how to choose the right fonts for your brand. Let's dive in. All right, so first things first, there is a metric ton of information about fonts out there all over the internet. In an attempt to make your life easier, I am not going to go over the history of fonts and all the things you need to know about typography. It's not a practical use. And so today I really just want to show you how to quickly and easily choose a font that will go with your brand without having to know the entire history of fonts and what they mean. So really quickly, you do need to know the difference between a serif font and a sans serif font. And this is a very quick and easy and simple graphic that I just grabbed from the internet about the differences. So a serif means feet. I don't know if it actually means feet, but it does mean feet. It just basically means these little serifs, that's the little pointy things that stick off of a font. Those are the serifs, and sans means without. And so sans serif means without the feet, right? Without the pointy things. And so that's all you really have to know about the history for now. And also historically, serif fonts, like this one right here is called Playfair Display, are more traditional, classic, fancy, right? So serif usually equals fancy, whereas a sans serif, which is this is Montserrat, and I still don't know how to pronounce that word. I don't know if it's Montserrat or Montserrat. I have no idea, so I kind of say Montserrat. I have no idea. I like mix it up between English and French. One of these days, I do need to search that up on how to pronounce this font that I use all of the time. But anyways, I digress. So the idea here is that these are more casual, more friendly. They're almost like a little bit more rounded. I mean, even just looking at them, I think you can get the feel that this is a little bit more fancy. It's got more flair to it. This is a lot simpler, just really modern, right? It has that modern feel. So that's the overall idea between the differences between the two. Of course, you can always mix and match it up. And I think the rules are getting broken kind of every day when it comes to stuff like this. I want to show you guys an example of a brand right off the bat and how they mix in and what kind of fonts you need. So how many fonts do you need? Well, I say you need 3 types of fonts. And actually within a brand, these could be all the same font. But as far as how you're actually going to execute them, how you're going to use them, you're going to use them in basically 3 ways. Number 1, you're going to have a headline font. Number 2, you're going to have a sub-headline font. And number 3, you're going to have a copy font or like the body text font. So that's basically the 3 things you have. And so in any good brand board, we have these. So here, we have the main headline look. And this is Marcellus, the font. Then we're going to have your sub header look, and this is Josephine Sans. And then you're going to have your copy, your body copy, which is Nunito Sans. And so I use 2 sans, and you might be wondering, what is this thing? Well, this is kind of a transitional type of font. It's sort of in between a serif and a sans serif, but I think technically I'm going to call it a serif because it does have little bitty bits of feet. So it's not a sans serif. It's definitely not a sans serif, which would make it technically a serif, but it's kind of a transitional. It's in between the two, which actually kind of makes it a cool modernized version of that font as well. You'll also notice a lot of the sans serifs have thick and thins. You'll notice like here it's a little thinner, then right here it's a little thicker, and see how it kind of like goes back and forth in widths, where sans serifs are mostly kind of all one thickness. There's definitely a little bit of change in there sometimes, but for the most part, they're usually kind of all one thickness. So you will see here, I'm mixing and matching. I'm using a serif and some sans serifs as well. And so there's not really a rule that you have to use all or one or the other. It is kind of easier if you just want to pick, okay, I want all traditional, I want all fancy, I want to use all serifs, or I want to use all sans serifs and make it really like modern and very friendly and rounded, right? But I think that like the up leveling is in mixing these two. And actually for the most part, when I use a serif, I don't actually mix them. I usually use one serif for all 3. So you can still use the same font. You can still choose a font like Adobe Caslon or Libre Baskerville or whatever, something that it's a serif font. You can choose those, but you can have different looks to them. So you can still have the subheading maybe is always uppercase and it's green, and then maybe the copy is always small and lighter, and then the headline has like maybe some other color or it's bold or something like that. So you can use one font in 3 different ways and 3 different sizes and sort of styles in order to bring that through. And I actually wouldn't mix a bunch of serifs together. I probably would stay with 1 or 2 because serifs are very fancy. They have a lot of decorative elements going on. I would probably just choose 1 serif, or else if I was going to choose 2 serifs, I'd have 1 for a headline and then 1 for body copy and everything else. And for the most part, I would recommend doing actually the same thing with sans serifs as well. Having just 1 is totally fine for the whole thing. Or if you want to have 2, then I would have 1 as the headline font and maybe also the sub headline, and then 1 for body copy. But where you don't want to mix and match is within those categories. So you don't want a bunch of different body copy fonts, you don't want a bunch of different subheading fonts, and you don't want a bunch of different headline fonts. Whatever you choose in those, stick with it and keep it consistent. The consistency is key in branding. We talked about it in the last video about branding colors being consistent. Same thing here. Whatever you choose, the color, the size for your sub headline, make sure that it's that same way all the way throughout. Your headline is always that same size, always that font, always that color throughout. Your body copy can change a little bit in the sizing, but for the most part, it's going to look very similar to each other all the way throughout. To make your lives easier, if you are not a designer, picking 1 or 2 or maybe 3 tops, like three's pushing it in fonts to use because the simpler the better. And if you don't know what you're doing with these, you can get really messy really quickly. So I would just suggest if you don't know what you're doing, just pick one or two, keep it simple. And then when you start to learn more, you start to hone your eye a little bit better, then you can start to choose other ones and understand how they mix together. So it takes a certain level of style to pick something like this where three of them go together, but it also is just, it kind of lends into this feeling, right? So I'm kind of scrolling through here so you can see the difference. And even adding this cursive font in here, you have to be really careful to know what fonts go with others. And that really is not something that you can just teach off the bat. It's something you have to kind of learn with your eye. So that's why I say keep it simple, especially in the beginning. Pick those categories. Like I said, your headline, your subheadline, and your body copy. And that's it. Like just pick whatever those three are, and then you can build on them from there. But if you keep it simple, it is going to create a much more sophisticated design look. And if hearing all this stuff is kind of making your head spin and you're looking at this design saying, I have no idea what to go together, there are plenty of design templates out there for you that have already done this for you. They've already figured out all the design styles, this being one of them. So we actually sell this as a brand. We sell this in lead magnet templates and webinar slide decks and in the entire funnel. So let me show you how a brand and how these fonts actually are converted into a working funnel, and to show you what it looks like when fonts are consistent. So you can see here we use those three fonts throughout. We have here for our subheadline, here for our main headline, and here for our body copy. You see like subheadline, body copy, and then you can see here this is the same as the subheadline, headline, body copy, and then we have this fourth one thrown in, which is called Gotcha, and we use that just very sparingly as just a little pop and also like a little casual aside. And so again, you'll see here headline, subheadline, copy, subheadline, headline, copy, headline, copy, subheadline. So do you see everywhere it's consistently over and over and over again, same or around the same size and kind of the same relationship, right? And you can see it here, headline, and then the copy coming through here, stuff like that. So you can see how it's being pulled through the design over and over, and it's being used in a consistent way, and how it makes it so this brand feels super duper put together, really, really professional and super easy to read, right? Like we chose fonts that are very easy to read, they flow, they're very friendly. It's like this design in particular, which is Funnel Executive, has this executive feel, very professional, but also super duper warm. And it's a combination of the brand colors like we talked about in the last video, and also the fonts that we chose and the relationships they have with each other and the air that we have, a lot of air in here. It's actually a really simple design put together in a complex way. And so it makes it feel complicated, professional, but also really inviting and warm and friendly. So one really important thing to know is that your logo font is not necessarily the font that you're going to use throughout. And so this is why we suggest you use a font that's readily available, like a Google font. I'll talk about that in a minute. But your logo font should pretty much be like pretty unique. And so just because it's in your logo, just because you use the font in your logo does not mean that it should be used all over your website. Usually logo fonts are supposed to be distinct, and so that people can't just copy over the look of your logo. So you do want them to go together, you want them to flow together, you want them to look alike, but you can use custom fonts. Kind of the sky's the limit with fonts for your logo, because I said you want it to be super unique. But as far as picking your headline, subheadline, copy, and then maybe a pop font, those you should use the ones that are readily available so that you can be consistent through all platforms. You want ones that load into FG Funnels, that load into Google Slides, that load into Canva if you're going to be using Canva. You want to use those fonts that are going to be easy to use and replicate your design style over across a lot of different platforms. But again, your logo font can be totally unique and doesn't have to be readily available. One last thing to note is that we always pretty much try to stick with Google fonts. So you can find those at fonts.google.com, and these fonts are totally free, but it's very cool because you can actually use them on websites. You can use them in Google Slides. There's a lot of use for them, and they look pretty much the same over all different computers. And so you can actually see here, you can choose based on serif, sans serif, display, handwriting, or monospace. You can choose, is the font thicker? Is it slanted? Is it wide font? All those kind of things in here, and you can use these totally free. And also our builder, FG Funnels, has these kind of included, so you can just grab from them as well without having to worry about downloading fonts and uploading and doing a web version. It gets very confusing when you're trying to use fonts online, which is really important for any brand. You want to be consistent online. So I know this was a little bit of a different take on fonts, and it isn't the same as most people's advice for fonts, but it is really what works in the real world and what is going to make your brand very consistent, very easy to use over multiple platforms, and ultimately is going to make you look the most professional you possibly can. Not only does branding your business increase your chances of being recognized by potential perfect clients and customers, but it helps you stay consistent and persistent with your brand's values. One way to keep your brand totally on track is to create a brand board. The cool thing about brand boards is they are actually used internally, meaning they are used within your infrastructure of your business. The only people that are really going to see your brand board is your team or any designers you hire or any outsourcing you do. This actual document won't be seen by anyone else, so it can be as fancy as you want it to be. But the cool thing is the evidence of it and its existence will trickle down, and your customers and clients will notice. So just having this reference or this North Star blueprint to your brand is going to make such a difference in your brand, even though it's a hidden document that most people don't see. And so you can keep it very simple. This right here that you guys are looking at is the Funnel Rebel collection design. We call it an offer design guide is what we call it. It's a simplified version of a brand board. This is actually one that you can purchase from us. We sell logo templates, and the logo templates come with these brand boards or offer design guides, as we call them. And they really are, again, like I said, they're the blueprint, the North Star, everything kind of comes back to this. So I want to kind of break down what's on here and why it's on here and how you use it for your business. So we already have a video on creating your logo. Make sure you guys check that out. We have a video on doing all of your colors, picking your colors. Make sure you check that out. We have a video on picking out all your fonts. Go ahead and check that out. I guess the next thing we need to do is the secondary logo video. If you guys want to see that, make sure you guys drop a comment in the comments if you guys want to see that kind of video from us. So a brand board is really a combination of all of these things in one place. And then when you are making a decision on design, or you're doing, some kind of new piece, whether it's social media graphic or, something for Facebook, like a cover graphic, or if you're doing a funnel design or website design, even ordering some swag, this is going to help you or whoever is designing it make that decision. So for example, if I were ordering a water bottle, I would want a long logo, so I would use probably my secondary logo, and then I might either choose a white water bottle or like a beige water bottle or a hot pink water bottle, or if they had a green or they had a black. And so this kind of helps me decide what colors can I pick, what are the options of the logos, and then of course what are the fonts that I'm going to use. So you'll see there are 5 elements that any good brand board should include. 1 is the logo, the main logo. 2 are the colors, the brand colors, which is the main colors and then the secondary colors. 3 is the fonts. The simplest version here is just going to be listing out the fonts as we have here, but more sophisticated or complicated brand boards will say which fonts are which. So they'll say, this is a headline, this is a sub-headline, this is body copy, this is a pop font, etc., etc. The 4th thing is the secondary logo. Sometimes this is just an icon, or it's something that it could be like a shortcut of a logo. So if you don't have room for the full logo, this is a shortcutted logo, and you'll see that this uses the monogram, the GD. And then the 5th thing that I always like to include, not a lot of people include this, but I think it's super duper important, is the lifestyle images. So the idea here is this gives us a direction on photography, what types of photos we would choose. It also brings in a mood and a feeling and a voice to what otherwise would just basically be pixels. And so it starts to we start to feel out what this would look like. And so in here, this Rebel collection, it's very much an attitude. So the photos are representing the attitude, or different types of people that would be considered to be, sort of rebels, right? Like what kind of people we're attracting
expecting and what kind of lifestyle, what kind of clothes do these people wear. But it could be, interiors, photos of interiors. It could be photos of locations. It's more of a lifestyle type of thing, like people living out the brand. And so let me break down here again what kind of you're looking at. And so obviously the logos here, the colors, I like to have them in the circular format. I do like to have them in a particular order, black being the dark color. So if you guys haven't watched our video, make sure you guys watch the video we have on color, but black is being like that dark color. The second one in here would be like your primary color. The third one would be your pop color. And then these will be your neutrals. This is probably somewhere in the middle and then somewhere on your lighter side, whatever your lighter color is. And so I do that on purpose in order always. It gives me indication on how to use the colors. You could actually write that on here, primary color, secondary color, neutral, all that. You could totally have it on here if you need to. This is just my shortcut way of doing it because I already know the order that they always are in. And then same with fonts, we're showing the different fonts here. This is the pop font, this is the headline font, and this is the body copy font. You could label them headline, body copy, pop font, whatever you want to do here. And then of course, like I said, the secondary logo, a lot of times this is a monogram, but sometimes it's just an icon. And then as far as these images, I do have them match up with the colors in order. So this first image will always be, heavy on that main color, which is black. Secondary image is that, the pink color. Third image is that bright green color. And then the last image is either going to be the neutral or the light color. Obviously, white being white, I'm just going to use a neutral. So I just used a bunch of shades of gray here. And again, this is a very simple version of it, but I think this is like the bare minimum of what you would need. If you don't have a secondary logo, you don't have to have it on here, but I do recommend some kind of a secondary logo, even if it's just, the letters or the monogram, because sometimes you'll see a need for a smaller, more simple version of the logo, and it'll be nice to have a secondary logo as a second option. So as I said, this brand board as it is, this logo, all this stuff is available for purchase. It's just one of the logo packs that's included, and we have a huge bundle of logo packs with almost 20 something logos in there, and this is just one of them. If you wanted to grab one as a sample, or if you just want to grab one to use as a start and you just kind of customize it from there, totally cool. There's tons of designs in there for you to choose from. And I just wanted to show you quickly what it looks like to have a more complicated brand board system. And this is something that we created last year for Funnel Gorgeous because we were bringing on a lot more people into our team and they had a lot of questions about the assets and the design files and what colors went where and all kinds of stuff. So we added a lot more information. Now understand that our business is a very complicated one where there's several sub-brands, several, courses and programs. And so this was kind of hairy to figure out how to create this brand board here. But this top section talks about how people flow through our value ladder. This already actually needs to be updated, but this was as of 2020. We have our main Funnel Gorgeous logo. We have our watermark. And so this is actually used on photos or blog posts and stuff like that. It's an FG. It's a short case. I guess it is sort of a secondary logo, but we specifically use it as a watermark. We have our muted main colors. We have a lot of main colors that we use. We do use kind of like a rainbow of colors in Funnel Gorgeous, but they're very pastel-y and they are like more like in certain tones, not all of the colors. But we also have a secondary set of colors. This makes it so confusing, I know. We have a secondary set of colors that is for social post. So in order to pop out of the feed, we kind of picked some secondary colors as social brights to use that are just a little less pastel-y and muted. They're just a little bit more pop. These are some of the logos as of, last year. We've already created several sub-brands now. We have the whole FG Funnels, which is not even on here. So these are kind of all the sister logos. And then we talk about the premium fonts we use and then the Google fonts we use. So the Google fonts are the web-safe fonts that we use or on Google Slides or something like that. But then the premium fonts are things that we use like in printed materials, PDFs, kind of stuff like that. We also have in here a look for slide decks. So we do a lot of presentations. We do a lot of obviously videos. And so we need slides. We need tons and tons of slides. That's a whole section of our business where we have slide decks. So this is the main look of a slide deck, kind of getting some of the look in there. Gradients and backgrounds we use. We have different design elements with the stars, the arrows, these divider lines, stuff like that. We wanted to put that in here. And then we have an image style. So we have this image style that we use on the blog where there's like cutouts of Julie and I on different backgrounds and stuff like that. This is a much more complicated. I just want to show you the difference between kind of the basic when you're just starting out a brand and then when you're in the multi-million-dollar brand with sister logos and all that kind of stuff, how different these can be, but how they can grow with you as a business. And already this one's from 2020. It's already out of date and it needs to be updated with the new brands that we've already launched and the whole FG funnel side that we've launched. But I do think it's helpful for you guys to see the differences of how a design guide or a brand board will change with you over time. It's like this living and breathing document that doesn't necessarily need to stay the same. It can get updated and changed, but it's really, really great to have that North Star, that blueprint document of what your brand's about, what's the voice, what do we represent, what are our values, and something that's really visual in one place that multiple people can reference inside of your company.
Are you ready to create an amazing logo for your business, your course, or your offer? Well, if so, today you are in luck. No design experience needed.
We'll go ahead and show you guys how to do Canva today, since it's just a little more approachable than, the big guys, the big guns. And so in Canva, there are a lot of templates that you can use for logos. We actually have a whole template that's a logo pack that includes, I think, almost 20 something logos in there that actually go along with our funnel designs. But today I'm going to show you how to do one from scratch. And I'm going to show you a very simple version, a pretty versatile version. Obviously, logos will vary, like in complexity, in layout, in style. It's kind of like everything under the sun. And so I'm going to show you today how to do a simple stacked logo with an icon. It's a very simple logo and it's pretty easy to create. The biggest thing is that it is symmetrical. You want it to be even on both sides, and it is center justified, meaning like everything's aligned along the middle. And so I'm going to go ahead. You can just go to create a design here. It's going to pop up and open your window. And of course, you don't need any templates because we're going to do totally from scratch today. And actually, I'm not even going to use the elements or anything from Canva. I think sometimes people can use them as a crutch a little bit. And so I really want to show you guys kind of how to do this from scratch. And so the idea here is I'm going to have two words, gorgeous and boot camp. Say it's called that. And then I'm going to add an icon in for that as well. So I'm actually going to start by creating the icon. So it's going to go icon, gorgeous, and then boot camp in the stacked way. But I'm going to start off with the icon just because I feel like it. I feel like it kind of gives it a little bit of a mood and a style to start off with. And I think the icon is one of those things you're probably not going to draw from scratch. Maybe you totally can, but there are tons of free icons out there already. So you kind of don't use the professional illustrations when you can. One of my favorite resources is Flat Icon. So I went over to Flat Icon. We have an account here. You don't have to have the premium level account. You can just use the free version as well. But I love Flat Icon. I use it all the time. So we have the premium version, but I would search for an icon. So if you're, you think about what your business is about or your offer. So I'm just going to actually type in gorgeous, but you could type in anything, put in a topic or something like that, anything you want. And so I'm going to put in gorgeous. And so I can see I have lots of different options here, and I'm going to look for something somewhat simple, not too fussy, and just really kind of rounded and simple. With logos, really simple is best. The simpler the lines, the better, to be honest. It's not really beauty related, so I don't want it to be too obvious, but you also don't want it too abstract. So it's kind of like this in-between place. And so I'm thinking what represents gorgeous without being too specific, like showing fingernails or something like that. And I'm really drawn to this little butterfly here because it's super simple, but it looks really abstract and it looks like it could totally be a logo to me already, right? So this is a really cool thing. So there's a PNG you can download, but it's going to be a raster, so it's going to be in black. Now, if I choose SVG, it's going to download. It's going to ask me to save. So then you just save it to your desktop or wherever. But the cool thing is when I bring in this SVG file into Canva, it's going to keep it as a vector file. And so I'm going to be able to change the colors. Watch this. So cool. You're going to go to upload your media, grab it wherever it is, wherever it lies. You're going to grab that SVG file, bring it in, and then you're going to see it takes a second to upload because it's an SVG. And then you're going to bring it into your layout here, and you're going to see that now it's actually, I have the colors here that I can grab. I'm going to grab from our FG brand palette. If you guys don't know what colors you want, make sure that you guys go watch our last video where we talked about colors and fonts. And you notice when I drag here, it's keeping my center line, and it's kind of showing me a guide so that you want to stay on the center line the whole entire time. So I'm going to obviously make it smaller, and I'm going to go back to that center line because I want to stay there on the center line. And so then I'm going to go gorgeous and then boot camp. You can go in here to your text, just grab any heading here. I'm going to have gorgeous as uppercase, and you can start to block it in. You can either block it in or start to design at the same time. Like this is already shaping up, right? Like this already almost looks like a logo because I picked such a really cool icon. It really brought in that feeling. Of course, these are not the fonts that I want to use, but they are obviously closer to kind of like, it's kind of like blocking in what I want. And so remember, I just keep seeing that this center, and then also you are going to want this middle line to be bigger than this line. And it already is, but I'm going to change up the fonts a little bit too, and can change the colors around as well. So I'm going to go for like a darker color for this section. Actually, I'm probably going to leave them the same. Actually, I could do something like a little lighter version, or I could do like a pink. And right now I still haven't chosen my fonts. I'm just kind of looking at the colors, but you could do fonts first. You could do colors first. I'm just choosing to do color first. Maybe the little gold. I kind of like that gold there. So now I have to decide on the style, because these are just the fonts that they gave me. So I really have to decide on the style. Do I want it to be a serif-y, like more traditional classic font, or do I want it to be more modern and a sans serif font, you know, something kind of like newer, like warmer and more friendly? Again, if you guys haven't watched that last video, make sure you watch the last video because we talked about colors and fonts. So I'm going to make it something like more whimsical, more with a serif. And so I'm going to start looking at fonts and kind of trying to decide what I want here. And so because I made it an uppercase font, it is going to kind of, you know, change a little bit of my choices. Like I wouldn't want to use this font and, you know, something like that. I actually really like that Poppins. It's like this really light and pretty. These are some that we've uploaded before, but you can obviously use whatever's in Canva, or you can upload them. I kind of like the way that looks already. So really, like, this is kind of just playing, and I kind of click off of mine and click back on. I'm kind of looking at it. I'm sort of tilting my head saying, how do I feel about it? What do I think? And I'm like, well, you know, do I want it uppercase or do I want it lowercase? And so you can kind of click back and forth, you know, do I want it uppercase? Do I want it lowercase? I think it's still like it uppercase. I mean, it's just kind of deciding and kind of knowing with the style and who you're connecting with, and like really everything we talked about in the last video on who your people are and what's the voice of it. Do I want it like more bold, kind of thick? You see how I'm kind of like clicking off of it and on it. And so it's really just playing, you know, at this point and kind of seeing, you know, maybe I want it to be a little bit more traditional. I kind of like the look at that actually, but now this is starting to feel a little bit dark, and so I'm thinking, oh, maybe a little bit lighter. Yeah, like a little bit more pastel-y kind of color, something in there, you know. And I'm just starting to feel it like a little bit more, but I'm looking at the space. I'm kind of tilting my head back and forth, and I'm looking at the space that it's taking up. So like the negative space, is this equal to this? Is this like close enough? Is this too far away? If it were to kind of be out here, I would look and go, oh, you know, this looks like this is close together, but this is far away. It's like all of a sudden there's like a pause, you know? And so I kind of move it back up and move it around. So, you know, there's not really much to this logo. You can always add in like maybe some lines here or some shapes. But honestly, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make, especially newbies, is adding too much and going too far. And a lot of times the simplest is the best. And so I have 3 things here. I have 3 elements. I have an icon, I have the name, and I have the second part of the name, which is smaller. This could even be an uppercase version. I never do uppercase and italic, so I would have to switch that out to something else. But I could do even something, you know, similar to this one, but just smaller, or maybe something like this, you know. Could even be like a sans serif, or, you know, maybe it's one of these, but then you pull it down. Oh, I like that. Feels a little too small, so I think I would sort of bump up the spacing a little bit so it makes a little bit more of a round shape in between. But I like the way that looks. And so you can see I'm just kind of playing with it. Again, I'm looking at the spaces. I'm looking at all of the areas around it, seeing how it feels, seeing like if it feels like it's together. I'm also looking at how is it being read. Do I read the gorgeous first and then the boot camp, or do I see boot camp first and then gorgeous? And because gorgeous is darker, I'm leaning that way. And so it takes a little practice, but this formula is a really, really easy way to make your own logo totally for free using Canva and flat icons or any free icon thing. And I'm just kind of throwing it in here, throwing in my colors that I've already pre-picked out and pulling it together. And we've created a gorgeous little logo here for Gorgeous Bootcamp. And a lot of people overthink this, but sometimes it is as simple as that. We covered a lot in talking about your brand and your brand board in this video. If you have any questions related to your colors, your fonts, your style, post those questions below and we can help you out, or maybe we can give you an additional resource. We'd love to hear from you. In addition, make sure you check out our other videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one.